All right, for more on the scale of the devastation and the relief operation to help survivors, let's speak now with Nadia Khoury. She's head of delegation in Myanmar with the International Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Nadia is joining us live this morning from Yangon. Nadia, thank you so much for your time. Could you just describe for us what's been happening in the last 24 hours and talk to us about the scale of damage and devastation that you've heard or seen?
Thank you for having me. So over the past 24 hours, the Myanmar Red Cross teams, alongside with a lot of the humanitarian community, have been trying to see what the scale of the damage has been. As you can imagine, with water surging into the land, with all of this flooding, a lot of devastation, fallen trees, broken communication mechanisms, access has been extremely difficult. And a priority has been ensuring the safety and security of those first responders. The wonderful thing about the Myanmar Red Cross is that they're present in every single community, not only in Rakhine, but also in Chin, Sagaing, Magway, Ayeyarwady, Yangon. And overnight, we have been receiving reports about the Myanmar Red Cross volunteers going out, identifying the damage, and doing some initial evaluations. Now, the whole humanitarian community is going to work in a coordinated manner, also with our colleagues at the UN, to ensure that we can have a reliable view on the scale of the damage. But at the moment, it is looking quite devastating. There will be some immediate needs. Safe water, of course, when seawaters go on land, that has a detrimental impact on water sources. People will need shelter urgently. They will need food. They will need safety. Families will need to be reunited, and we will have to make sure that we can ensure that security for them. Myanmar is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world to the impacts of climate change, and this is yet another example of an extremely long coastline affected, and also further inland, as the cyclone decreased in strength, but still triggered enormous rainfall. And our volunteers are going out to the field to try and understand more and mount a suitable emergency response. We do expect that there will be a very big need for additional funding to support the scale of response that's needed, particularly in this country. We can talk about Rakhine State in particular, where more than 40% of the housing is of inadequate structure. We're talking about bamboo walls, thatch roofs, and those would have been all blown away. Now, some of the villages are quite hard to access and get to, and it will take time to get a more complete picture.
Yeah, the scale of the devastation is something that is yet to be sort of fully known. Disaster preparedness begins long before any emergency. I want to get your thoughts. Were you able to do anything before Mocha hit to minimize the impact?
Yes, absolutely. And we believe in early warning, early action. And as you mentioned, preparedness does save lives. Now, for over a week, Red Cross volunteers have been going out into their communities all over the country, helping to spread early warning messages, informing people about the risks of cyclone in terms of strong winds, flooding, and helping to evacuate people to safer land. They've also even been evacuating people from hospitals before the disaster hit. Now, we believe that that is something that has helped to significantly reduce the human impact of the damage. Now, as we see, people will be trying to go back to their homes. They will be trying to piece their lives back together in the short term, but also in the medium term. They will need livelihoods. They will need to find a way to survive in the medium term, and we hope that we'll be able to help them with that.
And Nadia, you mentioned Rakhine, but let's talk about Rohingya refugees. Their camps on the coast of Bangladesh were hit particularly hard. What do they most urgently need right now? And what are some of the biggest challenges for you and your team?
So my colleagues in Bangladesh have been feeding into us. They also had been taking preparedness action well before the cyclone hit. They're extremely well organized over there. They had been moving hundreds of thousands of people to safer, higher ground, and now they are also taking stock of the damage, particularly in terms of housing. Of course, heavy rainwater brings with it landfall, insecure land, and additional risks that might emerge in the coming days. So it's extremely important to ensure that the land is safe and that people can have safe shelter, food, water, and access to essential services in the short term.
Nadia, Myanmar is in a state of turmoil domestically since the military coup. How does that complicate your efforts?
Indeed, this is just another compounded emergency facing the already very vulnerable people in the country of Myanmar. As we know, for the past 2 years, hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced from their homes all over the country. Access has been very difficult for humanitarian actors, and we hope that we can continue to advocate for the humanitarian imperative to make sure that our humanitarian efforts as neutral, independent, and impartial actors can be understood so that we can reach the most vulnerable in this emergency and also going forward.
And for those wondering what they can do to help, what can they do to pitch in?
Well, we will be requesting additional support from the international community and to our donors. We know that many in the family of the Red Cross and Red Crescent will be doing the same. So please do look out to your National Society of the Red Cross and Red Crescent. Please do look out to the IFRC and, of course, other members of the community. We will need significant support to try and address the impacts of this disaster and hopefully mitigate for the future impact of other disasters to come in years.
Nadia, thank you very much for your making some time for us this morning to tell us about your efforts over in Myanmar and Bangladesh. Nadia Khoury there from the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies.